My first rule of buying cheap guns is not to get carried away with emotion with buying them, and I have done exactly that. The story starts with me walking around filming the Sealed Beard in Holt's last year. We film them, and every time I see something I like, I usually bid. I don't usually win, but this time I won a couple, and this was one. I saw it sat there, a Winchester Grand European. I remember selling these things for £12 to £1,500 back in the day when I first started in the gun trade. You know, I've built a real soft spot for them. But now with most modern shooters, that reverence has waned, and these guns are now worth £700 to £900. This one was significantly less because it had a cracked stock. So I thought, hey, let's make a wild punt at it, and I paid £285, £275 for it plus commission, which I thought was a bargain, and still could be. The cracks didn't look too bad, but we're going to have a look at those in just a second. Made from 1981 to 1986, it was the flagship gun out of the Olinco denture plant who made these Winchesters. High-end engraving, teardrops on the stock, beautiful walnut, round knob, full pistol or straight grips. They made a trap, skeet and field gun. They made no sporting model, which is kind of sad. 27-inch, 30-inch and 32-inch barrel options across that range. You know, this was a great gun of its era and still kind of stands up today. The checkering was finer than their other models. The finish of the metal, the finish of the wood was slightly better than their other models. They put a lot of love into it. I tried to find a new price in the UK from back then, but I couldn't find one. What I did find is that in the USA, at the end of their production, they were about $2,500, just shy of $2,500, which was an expensive gun, which makes sense. It's half hand engraved, it's half machine engraved, but we'll have a real good look over this in a moment. For now, the first thing to do with any auction purchase is to get it serviced and double check that it works, get any problems solved. And with the crack stock, instead of perhaps taking it off and seeing how bad the crack was and how weak it was, I'd already given it a little flex to make sure it wasn't too bad, which it wasn't. I thought I'd give it to young Ant to see whether it fell apart in his hands.
It is what it is, isn't it? You know, she's an old classic. It handles pretty well. I mean, the comb's a little bit low. We've worked that much out, but you're going to rip that stock off anyway and put a new stock on, aren't you?
Don't know. I think I need to go back and have a little think.
Right.
I think it is currently a Grand European.
Yeah.
And if we start mucking with the stock and I can find a Grand European one, that would be sad.
Right. But then it might be of some use.
Did it fall apart in your hands?
No. Did you shoot it as well as you shoot your long thorn?
Okay, good point.
So, if you're going to actually use it, perhaps we should make it into something that we like.
So great, having established that the gun works, we were onto a good start. So before we move any further, let's do a back to front look over. At the back we have a Packmeyer pad, the old English with the white and black spacer. I always think these look super classy and are just a hallmark of that Winchester era. I perhaps shouldn't be a big fan of it, but I am. You have beautiful walnut, usually American walnut on these. This is a round knob gun. As I said, they come in 3 different styles: straight grip, round knob and full pistol grip. The cracks are not good. You've got one running out the top here, you've got 3 around the top tang, and 1, 2, this one runs all the way around here, and this one comes all the way down into the grip here. They're not great cracks, but clearly they're not so bad that the gun's going to fall apart in our hands. The beauty of stock bolted guns, being a gun held by a stock bolt to the front, is there's always an amount of pressure. I'm about to take this stock off in a second to see how much it falls apart. The guns are hand checkered. You know, the checkering quality can vary, and this one has had a lot of wear, definitely, on that offside, which is a bit weird really. But then if you take the gun and you offer it up, it is quite apparent that this gun has been cast. So the fact this side is more worn than this one maybe indicates that it's been held with a left hand more than a right. The fact that it's been cast left through looking at it is interesting. And then if we look at the top panel here, you have a panel gap around the side. That's not standard in Winchesters. That is where they've cast the gun off, and this gun has bowed out from the top. It's held because there's a little flange on the inside there, as you'll see in a second, but that has bent out. That puts a lot of stress on wood. That's probably why it cracked. That's not so good. Other things we learnt when we were out is this gun is too low in the cone for both either ant or eye to shoot properly, and that's a lot of the problem with the old Winchester field guns, is the stocks are spec'd perhaps less for the English market. They are low or flat. If you find some of the trap stocks and some of the other bits like that, they can be significantly higher. The action itself is covered in beautiful wide scroll engraving. It's a mixture of rolled and hand done, which is always a bit weird on the Grand Europeans because the bordering is all very deep hand done, and then the whole action is this light rolled finish. It's not a bad looking thing. In fact, I think it's designed to mimic one of the Browning custom copies to a certain extent. What's weird about this one, and what I haven't clocked before on them, is that there are certain parts of the main scroll that have been hand cut out. So you've got a scroll there, a little bordering there, a little bit in the edge there, that border there, all done by hand, or done on top by hand. These panels are always done by hand, but I think that's so beautiful, how deep it is by comparison. I'd love to see one of these fully chased out. You have a hand engraved trigger guard. As I said, it's half hand, half rolled. It is weird because it really cheapens that rolled look, but only if you're being fussy. Again, 2 rolled scrolls, all your scrolls are on the back are engraved, these 2 are engraved, hand engraved. Perhaps, I guess the answer was if this was presented to an engraver and the rolling was not uniform or sufficient, their job was to chase it out. The forend is a semi-beaver tail. You've got that little cutout churl in the top there, tiny little tulip forend, solid mid, and ventilated top rib, which is, I believe, a parallel 6mm with a brass bead sight and fixed chokes. The forend comes off like most Winchesters. You push a little thing down, that comes down. So it's not sprung, it's on a little retention catch. I really like that. When purchasing any 101, always just double check if the kickers are cracked. I know it's one of those things that everyone goes on about, but it's about the most common fault. If they're being cracked, if they're cracked and repaired, great. If their replacement's great. It's just about knowing and understanding what you're buying into. The barrels are choked 1/2 and 1/4, mod and improved cylinder, and the barrels are bored 729. Winchester made some fantastic guns back in the day. They were a seriously competitive maker. You know, world champions were using these guns. They had some struggles and eventually sold out to Browning, or Olin sold Winchester to Browning, which, you know, brought on a new era, let's say. Anyway, back to this gun, the Grand European I purchased from Holtz. What are we going to do with it? Well, me and Ant discussed turning it into a sporting glaze gun and blah blah blah, and then I think we both realised, certainly I realised, that I'm probably never going to use it, but it would just be nice to have. What I'd like to do is have a little play and test a theory. My theory was, for how much money I could go and buy a gun with a good stock that I could just click on here, given that Winchester's stocks really do interchange quite easily. So I did. I went and bought one, and that is this. And this is the first mistake that I made. Or perhaps buying the Winchester was the first mistake I made because I'm an idiot. But this is the first mistake I made. I went on the internet and I tried to find the cheapest 101 I could. It's important to understand at this point that these guys, Winchester, the 101, was made from 1963 to 1987. So there are a couple of various iterations. So to make sure you get the right stock and the right spec, you need to be buying from the right era. In 1963 they released the 101 in 12 bore, 3 years later they released the sub gauges. We really don't see many of those in England. They were designed for the American market more than anything, and a little bit of the European market. They also made a double rifle with the same engraving as the Grand European, but it's not a Grand European, and a combination gun with the same engraving as the Grand European, but it's not a Grand European, interestingly. In 1981 the XTR range was launched, along with a range of guns purely for the English and European market, that being the 5500, 6500, etc. And in 1983 they released the Diamond Grade series, which are some of the most beautiful guns. They really are. I think I prefer Diamond Grades to the Grand European, potentially. In fact, I think the 8500 is my favourite of the lot. But anyway, this is not a 101 show. This was more just to say you need to be careful with what you're buying, which I clearly was not. I went on the internet and I trawled every site, both good and bad, and I found in the depths of one particularly bad site, not bad, just less reputable. It was a Winchester for sale with some pretty dodgy photos. You know, I think with modern phones it's hard to take a photo that bad, but clearly somebody tried or managed. And I saw it. I think it's a 6500, super grade, pistol grip, round knob, same extended tang. I was like, yeah, that'll do. The wood is not perfect. Yes, it's got no drop points, but it will do. It will do. It won't do, because when it arrived, unbeknown to me, if you flick it over the other side, and you can't perhaps blame the person for this, if you're not into guns, it's pinned through the head. So you've got a bar of wood there that's put through to seal another crack. So all I did really was buy another cracked Winchester. For less than I bought that one for, to be fair, but that was mistake number one. So I can't use that stock. So I get back on the internet, damaged, hurt, a little bit coyer than I was when I went out there with the confidence that I'd find the perfect gun for no money. Remember that I think that this gun could be made good, but by the time I bend it back with the crack, all I'm going to be doing is potentially weakening what is already there. So I think a replacement makes sense in this instance. And the fact I can always put this stock back on if I want it to be original, then happy days. There I am, pounding through the internet, and I stumble across this. This is a Winchester 7000 for sale at Lambert's of Ringwood, which is only half an hour away from me, so that was quite convenient. I give Ben a call down there, ask him what it's like. He says it's good. I get in a car, I drive on down, I pick it up, I spend an appropriate amount of money on it, and then I suddenly now realise that this in itself is a good gun, and perhaps limiting this gun for the sake of the other is sad. But what would this show be if it wasn't about doing dumb things? So now I have this and I have this, and we are now going to take the stock off this, firstly to see how bad that crack is and whether we could repair it and then cast it, and then B, to see whether this 7000 stock fits on here. You end up using the chisel more of as a scraper when we're talking with this small amount of metal. You know, we've got everything about these guns is more or less the same, except for that this riser and this riser are different in the way that they spoon into the stock is different. So there's one way to figure this out, and that is to see whether we take one out of the other and out of the other, and see whether it works thereafter. Let's give it a go. First things first, take your mainsprings out and put them to one side. Then you're going to have to remove the safety catch. The safety catch in these is a little bit of a bugger. Right. That's as simple as that, and then this will, with a touch of persuasion, come out. Be careful not to lose this little block in the middle here. Alright, riser removed. Let's do it to the Grand European and see whether this is a huge waste of time. Let's carry on. See if this fits for starters. Right, there's a little cutout in that top there. It's just about now levering that spring into the right position. We now have an action that is back together. Let's click it to the barrels, let's cut off some cartridges and see whether it retains its ability to go bang. You know what I said earlier about people Frankensteining these and gunsmithing these and none of them being original? Yeah, this is probably why. Let's offer up the stock. You ready? Let it be known that I am deeply uncomfortable with what I have just done. Yes, we have just created a better, more modern, better spec, better sight picture gun. It's nice. It feels way better than it did. You've got an appropriate looking sight picture down that comb and down the rib. It feels better with a pistol grip. It feels like we just ripped a piece of Winchester history up in front of you. I think I need to go and shoot it and then decide what to do. If it is such a significant improvement, then it needs to stay that way. If not, well, the old stock can go back on, maybe we'll repair it. Less excited than I was when I went through all the finding process. The journey to get to this point has been significantly better than getting to this point. Let's leave it at that. All right, to the shoot. It's definitely a better feeling gun for that pistol grip and the higher comb, definitely more modern, definitely more usable. Still in my gut, weeks after doing it, I feel a bit weird about having taken two good guns and turning them into one good gun and one less good gun. Your thoughts would be appreciated, but for now, let's make some noise, see if it works. I don't know what I'm expecting. I'm hoping that it was better than last time. These were the guns that defined the 80s. But now, for some reason, we all want a high cone. We're different sizes, and fish fair, that's an acceptable thing. Let's load up a few Sporting 100s and see if we've either improved or ruined a classic. AB Simo pair. Right. Oh, stupidly, I thought that second one would be a rabbit. Could have read the card that's right there. But the first shot, very nice. Recoil, much more forgiving. Sight picture, movement, everything, actually a huge improvement. Let's go with the B-bird again. We made it better. So we just straight through report pairs. Let's try sim pair. I mean, one stand in, straightened all the singles, hit one of the sim pairs, missed one of the sim pairs. I'd say we'd got a pretty good gun, whereas last time we couldn't find any consistency of line. Comb is just so low. We might have ruined a classic, but we've made a great modern gun. All right, we've got a right to left floppy and a going away standard. Let's shoot a few more. It's Monday morning here at Barbara Shooting School, and they have changed the layout as they do twice a week every week. And the board doesn't relate to the layout, which I really shouldn't have been shocked by because it's Monday morning. Which means A is actually this rabbit. Just chucked the ShotKam on because I watched our footage from before and both of us were very big moves, which is not a bad thing, but inherently cutting down that movement time, sort of trying to shoot for more of a swing through style is good. And certainly what I found just by changing the stock and the grip has turned this gun into one you can sort of park out a little bit and just do more controlled movements with. Well, 3 stands, and I am genuinely happy with how that went. I didn't have sleepless nights about it, obviously, but I had old boys and mentors talking over me like, you've just butchered a gun. And perhaps we did. But you know what we did? We made a gun that can now shoot adequately. It shot well before, but now it shoots good. So what am I in for totally? £700. Could I have spent £200 extra and bought a good Grand European? Yeah, I could have. It wouldn't have been as fun, and I still have the 7,000 with the crack stock that I could put back into auction and get a few pounds back. Yeah, I mean, the real question is it worth £700? Of anybody's money is the answer yes. Yes. Look at what else you can get for £700, but not too hard, because the answer is, you know, a second-hand 325, second-hand Mark 38, and U80A or a Yieldit. All of those are good options. But if you pull one of these out around any shooter who's been shooting for 20 or 30 years, they'll all appreciate it a bit. And if that's your aim, then job done. But the reality is you've got a beautiful gun, loads of handwork, loads of history, loads of interest, loads of character that can come and dominate plays. And that doesn't feel like a bad spend of money, although probably not my finest fiscal hour for somebody who prides himself on being somewhat frugal and intelligent with cash. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Take care, goodbye, and well, you may see the 7,000 in the next hot sale, but then again, I'll probably just keep it because I'm a hoarder. See you later. Thank you for watching, guys. This channel is made possible by our amazing sponsors. You can find out more about them in the description down below. And if you want to support the channel, you can join as a member. You get loads of extra content, well, some extra content, and occasionally we hook up and go clay shooting together as a membership group. If you don't feel like joining today, we really appreciate you watching and subscribing. Have a wonderful day.